So welcome to everybody that's joined. We're here to talk about Epsilon3 and Duro's integration, and we have a special guest from AstroForge who's going to talk about how they're mining space for minerals. We're going to hear about some trends in aerospace, discuss why integrating your PLM with an operational procedures platform is so important, and we're going to show you a demo of the integration between Duro and Epsilon3.
Welcome, everybody. Really glad to have you join this webinar. I'm really excited about this. I'll introduce Laura and Jose in a second, but just to state something that, Laura and I have been talking for years about this integration, and we finally made it happen, and really excited to have a fantastic joint customer using it. And we'll get into that in just a moment. So no further ado, I'd love to introduce Laura Crabtree, CEO and co-founder of Epsilon3.
Yeah, thanks for joining. It's like Michael said, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I think we wanted to make sure that what we built was really useful. And as we kind of started building more and more, we became closer. And Michael and I have been talking about how we could bring this to life for our customers and how we could make a useful solution for integrating two really new and awesome softwares together that will help fuel the industry. So here we are. Yep.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about Epsilon3, what you guys do.
Yeah, so Epsilon3 is started as a procedure platform, but really helping our customers streamline and standardize their integration, testing, and operations, and bringing together Duro as people are bringing a lot of their hardware usage into Epsilon3 because they want to have traceability of what they're testing and what hardware versions they are testing against. So hence the need for the integration here. And so if you're a company who is looking to streamline or standardize your integration, testing, and operational procedures and documentation, that's a lot of what we do here. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Awesome. Next, I'd love to introduce CTO and co-founder Jose Akane, AstroForge, also an LA-based company.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about AstroForge and what you guys are doing.
Sure. Yeah, AstroForge in a nutshell is going after asteroid mining. We aim to make off-world resources accessible for the benefit of humanity.
And so you're doing that by building a robot, a rover, or satellite?
Yeah. No, we send humans up there. That's really our business plan. No, we build small spacecraft, an order of 200 kilogram size spacecraft, out to the asteroid. The spacecraft has a payload, a refinery payload. That payload does the extraction and separation and filtering of the material, and we bring back only the valuable material to Earth. We're highly focused on platinum group metals right now, and we are set to launch our first deep space mission coming up here in Q4 of this year.
That's awesome. And then last is myself. I'm CEO and co-founder of Duro, another LA-based company. We are the world's first agile PLM. So we're a cloud-based platform for hosting your CAD files, your bill materials, and supply chain data. Everything comes with industry standard workflows, part numbering, revision schemes out of the box. But we do have a very powerful API that lets customers build their own extensions, hence the Epsilon3 integration, as well as configure their accounts to fit their needs. And a lot of our customers love how quick and easy it is to get up and running. So that focused on the actual building out the tech stack, they're actually focused on building their hardware products is what they were hired to do. So without further ado, let's talk about the integration. And so AstroForge was a mutual customer between Duro and Epsilon3. And they came to us individually and said, I'm going to put words in your mouth, Jose, feel free to correct me or embellish or confirm. But you said, I love your two products. I wish you guys could work together.
Verbatim.
We're like, do this or else. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. What was your vision? Why did you see the value of integrating Duro and Epsilon3?
Yeah, I mean, at AstroForge, we value speed and efficiency, and we always look for ways to go faster and be more efficient in our process as we aim to do this, to make this mission come to life. Both of these products we used early on at the company. As we started growing, we started seeing pain points. We're like, great, we need to have we need to onboard a PLM in place, and the traditional ones are just way too big. A lot of a lot of overhead, a lot of things we actually don't need. So we onboarded Duro pretty quickly early on in the company, and the same with Epsilon. We onboarded Epsilon really to get the procedures in place digitally, mainly because PowerPoint slides, Word documents, these things are very hard to just keep track of. So those two things together were great. We found ourselves, in the whole building of everything. We found ourselves going back and forth between tools, and that was a huge pain point for our engineers. And it just seemed like a very, I don't know, like a match made in heaven that these two this integration should happen. So we kept trying to push both companies along and say, hey, please.
This would be really nice and save
Yeah.
us time.
That's great. And so now that the integration's in place, what's changed? What have you seen in terms of efficiencies or value add to your team?
So the great thing about I guess I would say the future, there's still things left to be integrated. I think there's always going to be revs that happen in the integration. But what I see happening, what's great about it is I can just go to a procedure now. I know exactly what parts is there and what rev is there because of the fact that it's integrated to Duro. I don't have to go back and say, like, is this the actual part number? Is this the actual whatever assembly that we're actually using? And it really helps speed up the process.
And so it removes the human in the loop for reconciling the data between the
Right.
two systems.
Yep.
Awesome. And so you keep what kind of content do you migrate from Duro into Epsilon3? What's the data specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, we migrate the part numbers. We migrate the essentially and all the things that are necessary for inventory. So the assembly, the BOM, the part numbers, and essentially we're looking for tags as well that the custom tags that we put in place.
Got it.
And thumbnails of the parts themselves.
Gotcha.
Well, thumbnails, if we have them, we just
Yeah. Oh, true. If or when they're there.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so maybe Laura, to turn to you, what do you see as the future of the integration? What else do you want to add? What other values do you see that we can build there?
Well, I think it would be really great at some point to have a multi-way, more real-time integration instead of just a push when things are updated. So I think that's something that we'd like to add. And I know we've talked about those things as well, amongst all of us. But I think for right now, it's solving the pain point of, I don't want to manage parts in multiple places, and I want to manage it one place and then have it push to another place where I'm actually testing against hardware. And so it solves that problem. And then as we build out more features to the integration, I think it will continue to solve more problems. And then, we'll be able to push more information back into Duro, which will help our customers in lots of new ways as well.
Yep, it creates that full feedback loop. Yeah. No, one of the things that why I got so excited about this when we first met was it really tightens that loop between design teams and production teams. Historically, at least my own experience, building products and working throughout the world with various manufacturers, there's a big time gap between when the design team was working on a cycle and then the production team was actually testing it and getting that feedback back to the design team. Because the design team often was under pressure to work on the next iteration. So they're already in the second, third iteration by the time they were able to get that test data back. And there was also, while there's so many iterations going on, I was always crossing my fingers that the testing was even working off the right revision because it was often transferred by email, and sometimes the right person wasn't on that CC distribution list. And so you never really could be sure that people had the right content. And so what I love about this integration is for all intents and purposes, you're guaranteed to be working off the right revisions of your BOMs. having the CAD data, digitally transferred all the way from CAD down into the test system. There's no more, emailing or exporting. And then the test data can be pushed right back into the system, right? And so any test data that Epsilon3 captures, obviously you have a wealth of features and value add to the test processes and reporting, but at least summary of the content can be pushed back into Duro and either create new change orders or change requests, or at least get the design team to have that feedback. Okay, here's the impact of my changes. I made this change to this CAD file. Here's what's happened, as a result, right? And they can correlate that data much more seamlessly and asynchronously, I think, was the key value there too. They're not chasing people down, be like, hey, what happened? What happened? Right? I used to chase down my suppliers, emailing them constantly, like, hey, can you give me the test results? Like, I need this feedback. We're getting into the next cycle. I need to incorporate any information, anything I need for improving, first pass yield or DFX, what have you. And so I love this digital end-to-end full feedback loop, which personally I feel the software industry has had for quite a bit of time, through their automation and test and CI/CD. And so now the hardware industry is getting the benefits of those same models.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the data that we're gathering, either manual or automated, so we can integrate with real-time data from test beds, et cetera, you can then push that back to prove whether or not something was a good change, or like you said, create a change order for
Yes. Yes, which also I feel is a huge upgrade because, again, when it takes a long time to get that feedback, did something work right? People, certainly the design team, tend to be more conservative and take less risk because it takes so long to find out if something worked or not. And so they'll double, triple, quadruple check their work before they send it to production or make smaller changes, less risky changes. And so now with a tighter feedback loop, they're empowered to take more risks, to make more changes and say, well, the expense to make a mistake has dropped, or the time to find out if it was a mistake has dropped. I can take more chances, right? I can try new things much faster, which I think is an incredibly empowering capability.
I would agree with that. I mean, there's typically an intermediate tool between these two products, right? There's always, if there's an issue that happens, how do you document that? There's usually some process in place. And the more processes you put in place, the more tools, the more prone to error, the more human in the loop prone to error that happens. So the tight integration is something that is necessary.
Yeah.
Or the more people might ignore a process and do nothing.
Just do it themselves. Yeah. Or circumvent it. Yeah. And so talk to us, paint a little picture, Jose. What does your team look like? Is everyone in the same building? Are you guys scattered?
No, yeah, everyone's full-time in person. We're located in Huntington Beach. We actually just got a new facility. We're moving just down the street at Seal Beach. But the team is, I think we're at 30 now. So it's small. We're trying to keep it fairly lean.
Okay. So you are co-located.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
It's awesome. And I just noted we're all in LA, Michael.
We are all in LA.
Yeah. Yeah. We should get together.
Yeah. We didn't really fly too far from the nest.
Yeah. Well, I have tons more questions, but I think let's get into a demo of the actual integration.
This is a demo of the integration between Duro and Epsilon3. The Duro and Epsilon3 integration is currently a one-way integration that allows you to sync your Duro products and components into the Epsilon3's builds module as Epsilon3 parts. Once the integration is enabled for your Duro account in Epsilon3 workspace, you'll see a webhook very similar to this one created for you in your Duro webhooks library. The configuration that you see here is automatically generated. And we'll look at the key pieces for this webhook configuration. First is this webhook URL. This is a unique URL for your account and your Epsilon3 workspace. And this URL is where payloads are sent by the webhook as the webhook fires. The event type here shows that by default, the webhook is configured only to fire when change orders are approved and once those change orders are approved against your live data. And finally, this option here, which is really the key piece, which says to include all components and products data attached to that change order in the payload that is sent to this URL. So that's the gist of the configuration for the webhook that is generated for you once the integration is enabled. So let's see an example sync in action. So here I've got an Imager flight unit product in my Duro account. It's just a mock product I put together. This has a bomb full of sub-assemblies, and those sub-assemblies have components of their own. So I've drafted up some changes here for this product to create a new revision and release it. So I'll go ahead and add this to a change order. And you can see that the product is included in this change order. So once I go ahead and submit this for approval, then go ahead and approve that change order. Now, as that change order gets approved, the webhook is going to fire. And as it fires, the payload is sent to that webhook target URL we saw earlier, sending over this product so that Epsilon3 can go ahead and sync those Duro product components that are affected by that change order. So now when we come back to the Epsilon3 builds module here, this parts list that was initially empty, if you look at it now, we'll see that all the products components data have been synced over. I can see, searching for it, my imager flight unit product is synced over. And we can also see its entire BOM has synced over as well. So now the users of this Epsilon3 workspace can perform actions like submitting purchase orders against vendor supplied parts, manage inventory for all the parts, and also draft and run assembly, test, and maintenance procedures using the Epsilon3 procedures module. That's a quick overview of the integration between Duro and Epsilon3. Hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching this demo.
Awesome. It looks nice. I really like your guys' interface. I don't know, Laura, if you can talk a little bit about it, but about how much effort did it take you guys to get this integration up and running?
Oh, I'm happy to talk about that because we've built other integrations and with other tools, not PLM related, and they took a lot longer. Our engineering team said that this could have been done in a day or two. I think we did a lot of verification and testing, so it was out in about a sprint or two, but they were very happy with how easy it was to integrate.
Good, love to hear that.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of take a step to the side here, both you guys coincidentally worked at SpaceX, former SpaceX engineers, employees. I'd love to get your guys' take of what's now happening in the space industry. I know there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, we focus on that sector. In LA, there's a lot of fantastic companies, new companies that are doing various things. And I'd love to hear your guys' perspective, what's happening there and what people should be looking for.
Laura, do you want to go and start?
Well, I think there has been a boom of interest and new companies after, I mean, everybody's talked about the SpaceX boom, but in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen that companies can be formed with 5 to 10 people and can build products that are useful to either other companies or the world without the need for 5,000 people. I think that in and of itself is a huge shift in the industry, which is why the need for new, easy to use, easy to onboard software tools has come about. Because companies like Jose's and many others that I'm sure we both support, they need to be able to do more with smaller teams. And so I think that is a big shift that has occurred in the last, let's say, 5 years, maybe 10 in the industry.
And so if I understand correctly, Jose, you already have product up in orbit. Is that right?
We do, yeah. We launched last year on Transporter 7 last April.
Awesome.
The low Earth orbit CubeSat, demonstrating our refinery.
And from start to launch, how long was that about?
Good question. I think it's 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
And how big was your team to support that?
That's another good question. For that specific mission, we were 6 people.
So in 12 months and 6 people, you went from pen and paper to launching products.
Yeah, I mean, we had partners, right? We had vendors, but the company itself, 6 people. Yeah,
and it sounds pretty remarkable.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And you're starting to see a rise of these companies, exactly what Laura was saying. the startup boom is great, but the startup in space specifically is difficult to do, mainly because of the cost, right? Cost to launch, even though it has decreased, it's still pretty expensive to buy a launch slot. So every company out there has to be creative in how they solve these solutions, and find tools and resources out there that they can utilize. So yeah.
And so would you guys call this, and I grew up, I guess, the 80s and what have you, like really admiring, NASA and all the things, JPL were doing, but it was known to take, millions, not billions of dollars and years and large teams of effort. It seems like it's a drastically changed and almost, I don't want to say commoditized it, but it does definitely seem that there's now, the private market, not just government entities that can do these amazing things. And
Yeah.
curious
We're
what
all
you think.
80s kids, Michael.
Yes.
But I think what we grew up with was more in space was for very large companies and government. And what we're seeing is, like you said, commoditization. It's more of, there's a personal aspect. You can buy data from space, and every person, every company has a space focused initiative in some way, shape, or form. Everybody gives the GPS example, but that's the lamest example. But it is a good example because there is a space focused business for every company. And so I think that's what you're seeing is there's more commercialization, and it's not just for governments and countries.
And what's driving that? Why is there so much excitement now? Why are there so many new companies now that are building things, whether it's propulsion, whether it's satellites, whether it's mining, robotics? Why all of a sudden this interest in space again?
I think there's multiple things to that question. First, I think SpaceX really led the charge in lowering that launch cost. I think that's the obvious thing that everyone knows about. Then you had the government contracts made available to the public, trusting the commercial space to take on these roles that are typically given to other agencies within the government. Now they're saying, great, commercially, go on, take this task. And that's amazing. And then you have people that are empowered and emboldened with seeing this happen. Because before, like if you're talking about the 80s, space was this unreachable thing for people. It was just out of reach, out of like only the crazy, the smartest, brightest people ever, the top 0.005% can do space. But as you start seeing that more and more in your face and like, oh, this company's doing it, this company's doing it, you get more emboldened people to take that risk. And empowered by exactly like, these contracts that are happening and the actual market rising. So then now you start seeing this expansion. So you're starting to see companies take on constellations and building satellites as if they were, automobiles, right? They have whole factories dedicated to these things now. You're starting to see a lunar boom, the next gold rush or lunar rush or mineral rush. We're going past that. We're forgetting about the moon. We're going past. We're looking forward past that. But that, you're seeing the government has interest in the moon, and you're now seeing a lot of commercial activity there because of these contracts.
And so it feels like a chicken and egg, though. What do you think started this or really made it happen? Was it the government opening up to private companies to start taking on some of these tasks and distributing that workload? Or do you think it was the barrier to entry? You mentioned those are very intimidating or unobtainable for someone to start a space company because of the costs and the access and the tools. What do you think came first, or what's really allowing this to explode?
That's a good question. I mean, it was SpaceX started, and they that's a good question. I would actually say that the government contracts really was the seed. It showed a path for people to take these contracts and run with it commercially. And Elon was, someone who received that in the COTS program.
Yeah. We always talk about launch costs coming down, but what Jose alluded to was the trust in private companies to do things that previously NASA had done. So that is, on display for the COTS program, which Jose just mentioned, which was the first private company to send cargo to the space station. And previously that had only ever been done by NASA or JAXA or Roscosmos. And that marked a private company doing something new that previously was not able, we weren't able to do that. And so, with launch costs coming down and trust building in private companies, it was sort of a perfect storm of events to allow for private sector to really start booming. And then investor interest in getting into space helped fuel the new space economy.
Got it. And these software tools that we're using today and working together with today is empowering these companies to also accelerate their own development and lowering their costs.
Oh, absolutely. I think the software tools are necessary, right? You have these startups and their very space is capitally expensive. And the traditional tools that you have out there are also expensive. And you don't necessarily need all of the features. You just need a specific set of things that you need to solve, a problem that you need to solve. And now you're seeing these software companies like Duro and Epsilon3 that really solve the problems directly, and without any major overhead, right? Like I don't need to pay a lot of money and only use 25% of the product. And that really helps these startups kind of grow and flourish.
That's great.
Or hire a consultant to configure it for you.
Yeah. But one of that was a major motivator for starting Duro, but kind of a corollary to that was the time too. So not just the cost of these tools, but the very extensive time it often took to get them set up. Either get them set up and configured in their own right, or certainly to do any kind of integration. They often were not designed to be so easy to integrate. And you had to build your own custom solution or hire some expensive consultant, or just circumvent it and just do the manual exporting and importing process yourself. And so kind of what was exemplified earlier was a major motivation, certainly for Duro, was to ensure that whether our own integrations or our partner integrations, it was always trivial or as simple as possible to create them and get them up and running as quickly as possible.
I don't actually even remember how quickly we onboarded, our parts into Duro. Like it was very painless, actually. And when I was talking to other providers about, okay, what is the length of time it would take, or what do I need? The lead times were, oh, it's probably gonna take 3 months, or it's gonna take 6 months to get to this point. And you're like, and you need, a couple staff to maintain it on site, and you're sitting there going, what?
And you're thinking,
What?
I don't have that much runway.
I don't have that much runway, but also like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Should be like upload here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand, right? So companies like yourself, Jose, like you guys are in your own race, right? You're trying to get to market as quickly as possible, whether you have competition or just you're trying to achieve certain milestones with the runway you have. Anything that slows you down is basically, a waste, inefficient effort. And so if, again, traditionally, certainly my experience in working in the industry, it takes 6 to 12 months to get your tech stack set up and running. Meanwhile, I'm trying to launch a product within 6 to 12 months. It's like, well, this seems counterproductive. And so that I feel is also what's changed. And, industries like the space tech industry, where it feels like there's another space race happening today, have driven that demand, right? Customers are demanding, I don't want to take that long to set up my tech stack. Like I want it to be plug and play. I want it to be up and running. I want to focus on what I'm hired to do, which is build cool products, not have to hire a team of administrators to set up and administer my tools.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can launch a satellite in 12 months, and people have done it much faster since then. If you can launch a satellite in 7 months, and it takes to onboard a product 6 months, like why would I do that? That doesn't add up.
Well, if you're a startup or you've taken on investment, or you're just looking at phase 1 or phase 2 SBIRs, you don't have runway for years. 3 to 5 years. So you have to be as efficient as possible with your time. And taking the money out of the equation time is of the essence when you're thinking about doing something as quickly as possible or trying to beat other people to market. That is literally the one thing that matters.
Yes.
I was at the onset of this company, we were always hesitant to bring on, third-party tools, mainly because of the cost, right? The cost and the onboarding time, exactly what you guys have alluded to. So we would use, the standard spreadsheet model or whatever model, like very simple, like we can do this ourselves. It's great. But there comes a point as the company grows and scales and you have more people, and communication is key. How do you communicate that information across all the teams effectively? And the spreadsheet actually is not that great for that. And that's really when we started looking like, okay, we really need to get this in place. So I think there's a time and place for every company to take on these tools and software. But I think what's great about these new companies like Duro and Epsilon is the price point, the barrier to entry is actually very low, both from a cost perspective as well as from a time perspective.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
the goal.
Yes. Well, I think it's also it is becoming more prevalent now, but there's still a large market that is unaware of this new wave of tools that are as easy to use as Epsilon3 and Duro. And they're still focused in their mind of what these legacy products that take so long. And so when they start a new project or a new company, they go the spreadsheet route not because they want to, because they think it's a good idea, but because they think it allows them to move faster, taking on that burden, right? And I would like to give them credit, like they understand the risks and the hidden costs, but they're just maybe unaware that, hey, there's a whole new movement of the software for hardware category of amazing tools that are removing all that burden, all that time, and that they don't have to start with spreadsheets like they used to.
Yeah.
All right.
Or start with spreadsheets and realize like, oh, this is a terrible idea.
It's terrible. Yeah.
This is what needs to exist.
Yes. Everybody has their
Go through the pain. Go through the pain before you actually realize.
Everybody has their love for spreadsheets in certain ways, right?
Yeah.
It's fast, it's easy, but it's the hidden cost I think people often miss and don't recognize. It seems cheap at first, like, well, I can just work a couple extra hours. It doesn't cost me anything to get this working. But the first time that the spreadsheet wasn't updated properly or the wrong version of a file was sent to a manufacturer,
Exactly.
it's like, oh, the cost of a mistake in production can dwarf the cost of a software tool like Epsilon3 or Duro very quickly.
Same with a mistake in version history of your testing and operations procedures. If you updated the procedure and you changed a command and the person got the old procedure and sent the wrong command, they could damage hardware, and that's something that we're helping prevent. It's same kind of version history, version control, but for a different application. It's super important.
Yes, absolutely.
We actually ran into exactly what you were saying. So we were moving too quickly on our end. And we didn't go through Duro, we didn't go through Epsilon. We're like, cool, let's just go straight to the root source and just get this information. And it was not the right version. If we would have followed the process, if we would have gone in Duro, if we would have gone through the Epsilon process, we would have seen like, oh no, this is actually this is the correct rev that we're supposed to be using because this is the latest that's on here. And that is it was a time hit as well as a cost hit for us. We recovered from that, but it is exactly these unseen things that you don't really take into account when you're looking at just at face value. Okay, well, this is free and this is this cost.
Perceived free.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Oh, please go ahead, Laura.
Oh no, this came with the computer that I ordered.
Yeah, it's right here. Out of the box.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Sorry, Michael.
No, good. It's a great conversation. I do want to open up though and see if there's any questions from the audience. After Dave, if you have something to bring up.
Yeah, just encourage people, please put questions in the chat and we'll get to them. I do have one about what do you think is the future for the space industry and what will the next generation of space companies be building?
That might be for Jose.
I mean, I think it's for everyone. Everyone here hopefully watched the Starship launch, and that opens up a whole wave of possibilities. Now you have a very, very heavy lift heavy lift capable launch provider, and really the possibilities are endless, right? So
Yeah. I'm thinking more human exploration, a lot more deep space exploration. We still need to know a lot more about what else is out there, not only in our solar system, but even beyond that. So I'm excited to have that come to fruition. And with the super heavy launch capabilities, I think that will come, as well as a lot more humans, mostly hoping to travel to
Okay.
space.
Yeah. As tourists or workforce?
Ooh, both.
Nice.
That would be fun. I will go. One other question, we've obviously talked a lot about space, but what are the types of companies or industries might want to be interested in the Epsilon3 Duro integration?
I mean, honestly, I think any products can benefit from this. I think it's circumstantial that we've all focused on the space tech sector, which it's an exciting space market to be in, one that's definitely very progressive and trying to move fast. It's a natural fit for our products. But I think any product category can benefit from it. I mean, I think there's not just the benefit of being able to move faster with Duro, but just, reducing your overhead costs, for good or for bad, reducing some of your labor costs, or labor workforce, because these tools can take off a lot of that otherwise manual responsibility. And I think just any product, certainly any product that has accountability, right, as regulated industries where there's big costs when there's mistakes, right? Not to say that any product category doesn't have issues when there are mistakes, but there's more margin for error in certain product categories than others. And so, whether it's space tech industry, whether it's automobile or medical, other industrial products, I think they can all benefit from a product combination of aviation.
Yeah, marine.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, look, I mean, if Duro certainly, takes a lot of notes from the software industry and what was been successful in their acceleration in tech stack and development. And one thing that was very obvious was that the simplicity and ubiquity of revision control through like GitHub and GitLab and various Git products. I mean, the fact that it's free and comes on every Mac, laptop, it's a commodity. It's a free commodity that's encouraged best practice, right? And when tools like that are as easy and low cost and accessible for the hardware teams, I think it'll empower any product category to do better and to move more efficiently and more consistently. Whereas now, when it's a lot of manual processes and divergent tools, there's a lot of inconsistent processes and room for error, and not a lot of room for optimization and efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the tools are communication tools, and it's how you choose to communicate within your company really dictates how well your company is going to be, right? So if you choose to not have these tools and you choose to communicate just verbally,
Attaching things to email, I guess.
exactly, or that too. But there's a lot of distilling of that information, and it starts to get muddy over time as it exchanges between people. Even email, right? Email and verbally. So these tools are necessary in order to kind of anchor what truth is.
Agreed.
All right.
Any other questions from the audience?
That's it. Let's wrap up with one final point from each of you to say what can we look forward to in the future from Epsilon3, AstroForge, and Duro.
Go ahead, Laura.
Oh man. Well, let's see. So obviously we are going to expand on our integrations, and we are going to expose and already have exposed most of our data via API endpoints so that you can build bridges between Epsilon3 and whatever else you have, because we don't want people to have to ditch what they're using and really like. We want them to, increase their abilities in integration, test, and operations. So, stick with what you love and integrate, and we're happy to build bridges for you. I think that's one of the key points for us.
Jose, what's in line for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question was what's in line for us and just in the use of the product. I will answer it from that
For your next mission.
Yeah, I mean, the next mission for sure. We have the deep space mission coming up here in Q4 of this year, and we're all excited. We're going to be using Epsilon procedures to run that mission. It's going to be phenomenal, and we're looking forward actually to start the design of our next mission. And really, this is we built new, like every satellite has been new to this date. And now we're looking forward to, okay, great, taking the data that we get and revisioning the current product that we have, and utilizing Duro for that and understanding, okay, cool. Now let's see what Duro can do with the revision process and what things that we can glean from that.
Cool. Yeah, for Duro, we're really excited to continue building out this partner program. Companies like Epsilon3 and several others are building amazing products, and we want to find ways to get customers to get that value. It's the 1 + 1 = 3. When the products are working together seamlessly, there's so much more value that the customers get from that. And so we're continuing to improve that, making our API even easier, faster. It's going to be faster and more extendable. On the product side itself, we're continuing to build out the change order feature, making that more extensible, adding more plugins and visibility into how to empower people to make very informed decisions for the change orders. And then we're always building out more CAD plugins. And so right now we have SolidWorks and Onshape, and we're imminently about to launch an NX plugin. We have Altium and OrCAD on the way.
Yes.
Altium exists, and OrCAD Cadence are on the way. And love to get more feedback. What other CAD plugins or other integrations people want with Duro? Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear it. It takes a village to build hardware, so we know as much as Duro has vision and wants to have a lot of value to provide, we know there's other partners who can add tremendous value when we work together.
And it takes that same village to give us feedback on what is or isn't working, so that we can continue to iterate on our software to make your hardware dev processes easier, right?
Exactly. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you, Laura and Jose. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really glad we got to this point. It's awesome talking with you guys as always. And thank you everybody who attended the webinar. And feel free to reach out to any of us with follow-up questions.